Last time on Lake of Voices, we made a snap decision on the fragile bridge, and we lost Bemele because of it. Now all we can do is keep going. Eventually we make it to the other side of the narrow bridge, and the remaining three of us stand together quietly as we process what happened. I place my free hand over my face to cover my eyes as I begin to weep. Not all of us make it. No matter how many times I state it in my head, I'm not able to make myself accept it. We were all here just a moment ago, and yet now. How could this have happened?
Forget what you saw. As of right now, nothing matters except for the fact that we have yet to reach the shore. Morning will arrive soon. We must continue.
I can understand the words. I need to keep myself together until I reach the shore, and yet it seems impossible to actually do. Everyone is being lost, one by one. I can't take it. Margaret huddles close to me. She's also sobbing quietly into my shoulder. I can hear her faintly whispering apologies over and over like a heartbroken mantra. The guide taps the base of his staff into the boards, not allowing us to become lost in our sorrow. Margaret sniffles and wipes the tears from her eyes. She begins to walk forward. She looks behind her to see if I'm still remaining close. I manage to make myself take a step forward. My stomach twists as we simply have to move past the death of another person for the second time. It's so cruel. Bemele was a wonderful guard and a wonderful person. I was striving towards so much, but it was all lost in a moment. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. After hours of navigating the web of bridges, the faint silhouette of the shore creeps into view. It seems unbelievable that the end is in sight. Even that wisp of hope does little to ease the ache inside me. I still feel hollow inside. Those of us remaining continue in the direction of the shore, and the darkness around us begins to break. A seed of worry sprouts inside me, but we make it. The guide ahead seems to have no sign of concern on his face. He is calmer than I have ever seen him. I hold on to the hope that we will be able to make it through. Uh-oh. The sky above becomes tinged with red as we head down a long stretch of boards. We walk further and further into the mist before what comes into view halts my steps. A dead end. I gasp at the sight. It's sunk. Why? Why did this bridge have to fall now? The shore is there. I see it right in front of my eyes. Margaret is aghast. This possibility never occurred to her.
Is there any other path?
I ask urgently, making an effort to keep myself from sounding too panicked. Guy doesn't respond, or even turn to face me. He just keeps staring ahead at the end of the pathway.
Guide? Our way has been taken from us. We need to find another bridge before the sun rises. Listen to me.
Finally, the guide stirs from my harsh calls. He speaks in a distant sort of way, as if he were in a trance.
This bridge didn't sink. It was never the path to the shore. And yet here we are.
Uh-oh.
What?
I took the wrong way. We can't reach the shore. I wonder, how much of this was a mistake?
Yeah, he definitely sounds like he's...
You can't actually mean that. Why would... How could...
Well, we know where we went wrong. Margaret stares wide-eyed, unable to finish a complete sentence. This cannot be happening. It can't. It took us the wrong way, and he did it intentionally? Medicine, it robbed him of logic. Perhaps it was his will that was lost. If he had taken less, would this not have happened? Was it over as soon as I left him to the Nixie while on the shore? My mind begins to race with a million other questions, but I snap myself out of it. There is only one pressing matter to attend to at this moment in time. I forcefully grab the guide by his shoulders and make him turn towards us.
You need to show us the correct bridge or else we're going to die.
He brushes my hand off him, dropping his staff to the side in the process. I grab his wrist and try to pull him forward. Remains solidly planted on the bridge, with more strength than I anticipated given his hazy state. I tighten my grip, intending to make him move this time. However, he speaks before I can.
This is the end. Leave me be.
My hands slip from the guide at those words. I look at him, utterly baffled. We did not understand him, not in any way. I feel backed into a corner as the sun rises higher.
Kika, we can't stay.
We're almost out of time. I know we need to go, but however the guide won't move. Are I really meant to simply do nothing? To let him be lost? Like the others? The bridge begins to violently quake before us. I swallow hard. This is foolish. There isn't enough time for any of us to make it. He is aware of that. Margaret looks at me with heavy tears brimming in her eyes. Her fright is thinly veiled.
We're going to leave.
Margaret wipes her eyes with her sleeve and nods. The two of us start to rush down the bridges frantically. Not too much progress is made before the shaking morphs into an urgent shuddering and sinking. Despite the bridge starting to disappear below, we keep running until there is no more bridge left to cross. I try desperately to tread water, but my armor weighs me down in this dense fluid. Inevitably, my strength is quickly sapped away. I don't sink so much as plummet down into the lake. The painful, frightening, fighting, burning in my lungs takes a few minutes to subside. Then I slip into unfeeling nothingness. And just like that, gonna say we fell. Well, that could have gone better. This will at least give us a chance to try out different outcomes along the way and see how far back we need to go in order to not doom the guide and thus ourselves. Starters,
I don't want to stay here. What if it breaks?
Yes, we need to move forward. If someone notices the bridge bending at all, they need to slow and tell the rest of us.
alright, let's try moving forward together then. Let's try not losing Bemele. Both of them nod, and so we begin inching our way forward. I focus my thoughts on putting one foot in front of the other, keeping my balance in check as I try to remain centered. Despite our best efforts, however, the bridge begins to tilt sideways once more. We can't stay in sync with one another, causing the front bridge to bend down to the left while the back twists to the right.
Stop! We need to rebalance.
Uh-oh. All of us moving our positions at once only further contorts the bridge. It begins to rock dangerously back and forth. I start to struggle to remain on my feet, let alone be perfectly centered. It isn't me alone. A lot of us struggle to keep from toppling over the bridge, as the bridge waves from side to side. Uh-oh. I hear a high-pitched yelp from behind me. I turn my head and see that Margaret is slipping. She shuffles haphazardly on her feet and draws dangerously close to the edge. I reach a hand out to her, as futile as it is. She's already lost her balance and topples over the side of the bridge completely.
Margaret!
I shout desperately, but my voice can't help. Oh! She struggles just below the surface of the thick water until the monsters make their way to her. She never resurfaces. There's not so much as a bubble coming up from the lake. The bridge slowly creaks back into place, sloshing as it settles into its original position, all as if nothing happened. An eerie stillness overtakes the area as I stare, mouth trembling at the place my companion was lost. Overwhelmed with feelings, my eyes filled to the brim with tears. Why? Why did this have to happen? Before I have any time to grieve, the guide's voice rings out on a wind from across the bridge.
You cannot stay there. You must keep going.
I count my breaths in an attempt to calm myself. As long as I stand here, Bemele can't move.
I'm going to start walking again.
All right.
Bemele replies with agreement. However, there is a quiet anger running through his response. Now with only 2 sets of feet instead of 3, it is not as difficult a journey to make. The mere idea of one of us being missing pains me to my core. Eventually we make it to the other side of the narrow bridge, and the remaining 3 of us stand together quietly as we process what happened. So if we end up with this doomed path, one of us is bound to die. I I place my free hand over my face to cover my eyes as I begin to weep. Not all of us made it. No matter how many times I state it in my head, I'm not able to make myself accept it. We were all here just a moment ago, and yet now, how could this have happened?
Forget what you saw. As of right now, nothing matters except for the fact that we have yet to reach the shore. Morning will arrive soon. We must continue.
I can understand the words. I need to keep myself together until I reach the shore, and yet it seems impossible to actually do. Everyone is being lost one by one. I can't take it. Melee places a firm hand on my shoulder. He tries to comfort me, while mourning himself. Guide taps the base of his staff into the boards, not allowing us to become lost in our sorrow. But Melee levels a bone-chilling glare at him. Despite this, he lightly tugs on my shoulder, urging me to keep going. I manage to make myself take a step forward. My stomach twists as we simply have to move past the death of another person. The second time. It's so cruel. Margaret was so bright, so thoughtful, even with her teasing remarks. She had so much to offer, and it was all lost in a moment. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. After hours of navigating the web of bridges, the faint silhouette of the shore creeps into view. It seems unbelievable that the end is in sight. Even that wisp of hope does little to ease the ache inside me. I still feel hollow inside. Ooh! And just like that, next to me I hear Bamile cuss beneath his breath.
Is there any other path?
I ask urgently, making an effort to keep myself from sounding too panicked. Guy doesn't respond, or even turn to face me. He just keeps staring ahead at the end of the pathway.
Guide? Our way has been taken from us. We need to find another bridge before the sun rises.
Finally, the guide stirs with my harsh calls. He speaks in a distant sort of way, as if he were in a trance. Once again? Have you lost your damn mind? This cannot be happening. It can't. He took us the wrong way and he did it intentionally. The medicine had robbed him of his logic. Or perhaps it was his will that was lost. If he had taken less, would this not have happened? It was over as soon as I left him to the Nixie while on the shore. My mind begins to race with a million other questions, but I snap myself out of it. There's only one pressing matter to attend to at this moment in time.
You need to show us the correct bridge or else we're going to die.
Brushes my hand off him, dropping his staff to the side in the process. I grab his wrist and try to pull him forward, remain solidly planted on the bridge with more strength than I anticipated given his hazy state. Burley rushes to my side and hastily tosses the guide over his shoulder. He turns to me with a dire look.
We need to run. We're so close that we may be able to find the shore without him. We couldn't trust his word as he is regardless.
The bridge below us begins to tremble, and all I can do is nod. Both of us start to sprint across the bridges with the guide quietly slung over Bamile's back. Not too much progress is made before the shaking morphs into an urgent shuddering and sinking. Despite the bridges starting to disappear, we keep running until there is no more bridge left to cross. Again, sapped away, I don't sink as much as plummet down into the lake. Painful, fighting, burning in my lungs takes a few minutes to subside, and I slip into unfeeling nothingness. So no matter what we do in this situation, we're doomed. Because at this point, the guide has taken the full dose of medicine. But just to make sure, if we wait here...
I don't want to stay here.
Yeah, it's the same outcome as if we just say nothing. Oh no, don't save over that. Load this. In this instance... Oh, actually... Actually, first thing we'll do... What if we wait? Uh-oh, Margaret yelps. The flames leapt in the wind and singed her fingers. On instinct, she lets go of the source of her pain.
You alright?
I am.
Margaret answers me, frustration apparent. The fire rapidly eats away at the branch on the ground until there isn't enough safe wood left to pick it up again. She stares down at the lost makeshift torch, and it's the same look as when she lost her lantern. I harden my face.
I'll have to go on my own and ward them off. Once they move away, the two of you should follow behind me.
I feel like we're doomed again, but both my companions look at me, filled with concern. I shake my head at them.
There's too much risk for you to come with me. I'm going now.
Turn on my heels toward the Nixie. There's even more of them now. They drag themselves pitifully along the ground, reaching out their hands in our direction like beggars. Unfortunately, nothing can be done to help these creatures. As I approach, they curl their bodies from the light of my lantern. None of them move to retreat, however. Eyeing them warily, I quickly jump forwards in the hopes of startling them. A few hiss and flail, pulling themselves into the water. One responds a different way, returns the aggression by lashing out and knocks my light free. The lantern falls to the ground and blinks out. I gasp. Hello! Before I can turn around, one of them pounces on my back, forcing me to the sand as well. I frantically call out to the others.
Run! Get to the bridges!
Many more pile on. I dig my fingers into the loose granules. It puts up no resistance as they begin to drag me closer to the shore. They're shouting, but I'm not able to make out what the words are. As I feel the thick water begin to lap at my legs, I know in my soul that I will never escape. This is the end. Well, another achievement for us. Figuring out what we've got unlocked here. Achievement Guard, protecting what matters until the end. And for drowning, we got the achievement Drink, drowning in every drop. Okay. First thing I want to do is just wait. Move right along. Let the guide have his medicine, Bemele. His expression immediately falls when I say this. He stares down at the bottle in his hands dejectedly. I sigh. I don't enjoy dashing his hope of not being completely at the mercy of the guide. However, this reckless behavior is more likely to get all of us killed. He cannot carry a man for this entire journey.
I'm aware that you have good intentions, but having a mutiny on our guide is going too far. Considering the state he is in, it's possible that his mind is clouded already because of the pain. What if he is no longer able to keep his eyes open after a while? If the guide cannot take care of himself, then he won't be of assistance to anyone.
Bemele scans me, and I can tell that he still has reservations over my argument. I can't blame him. The guide will not give up on his own life over some pain. Yet I stand by my reasoning and look at him firmly. Bemele looks at me and then back down at the bottle. The others start to grow nervous over our battle of wills.
Hand back the medicine. The guide won't leave us behind as long as we follow diplomatically. We all must cooperate.
We focus our sight back on the guide. Realizing he's become the center of attention, he haltingly gives us a nod. Bemele clicks his tongue a few times before doing as I asked and handing the vial back to its owner. He feebly accepts the glass and uncaps it, downing half the vial without wasting any more time. I feel confident that the guide will continue to show us the way. However, Bemele starts to grow frustrated when the guide does not immediately speak, pressing his heel into the wooden board below in anticipation. The guide softly rests his forehead against the side of his staff. His eyes droop slightly as he relaxes his muscles briefly. He waits patiently for the medicine to kick in, forcing the rest of us to do the same. This is still gonna have us running into a hard time limit, isn't it? After a brief pocket of time, the guide's labored breathing steadies. He slowly pulls himself up onto his feet with his staff as leverage. Despite stumbling slightly and trying to get up, the spike of in energy he receives from the medicine is noticeable.
We must continue now.
He doesn't waste that strength communicating with us further, instead turning his back towards our small group. And with that brief statement finished, he starts down the bridge. I can still see him limping. I cannot deny that is worrying. He's already taken half the medicine. Would taking enough to properly walk be so much risk? I begin to follow after the guide. The two with me follow behind. making sure to stay within the safe harbor of my light. Once I'm near him, I notice that he isn't becoming more stable in gait. I ponder over whether I should mention that in my thoughts. Mention my thoughts to him, or not. Ooh. Bite my tongue and let that thought go. Now's not the time to be making even more of a fuss. Guide knows how to manage these types of situations. Creating another discussion will waste more of our time and accomplish nothing. It's already been settled. I need to keep it that way. Our group moves at a much brisker pace now than the previous night. After the exchange that just took place, the mood has sunk low in a murky pool. Not a word is exchanged between us. The only sounds that accompany us are the whispers of the demons in the lake and the pounding of our feet hitting the wood. For some time, we encounter a strange bridge. The oddity is noticeable immediately. The boards bend inward to become far narrower than the other bridges we've come across. The guide marches forward with no hesitation while the rest of us awkwardly halt in front of the unknown path. He calmly walks in the center of the boards. Halfway there, it begins to wobble. I suck in a breath as I can only watch. To my relief, the guide is able to steady himself and make it all the way across without another hitch. Now it is our turn. With only a single lantern shared between us, we have to be mindful of how to cross without leaving anyone in darkness.
I will stay in the middle. One of you will lead while the other goes behind.
Are we doomed again, though? I ponder over what position to take. The person in front could potentially stall the others or bump into us, so it seems important to send someone capable of crossing without stopping. Actually, we're going to... Once again, we've lost Babele. I don't think there's a way of saving him. At least on the path that I've wound up on here. A seed of worry sprouts inside me. Will we make it? Guide ahead seems to have no sign of concern on his face. I hold on to the hope that we'll be able to make it through. We're near the very end of the bridges. I can smell the trees and the earth. Even through the fog, I can almost count the remaining bridges between us and land. Between the end and us, a prowler appears. Margaret releases a distraught sigh. With her free hand, she rubs her eyes in exasperation. I eye the monster intently. It makes no move to leave us, so I turn to the guide instead.
Here, take my lantern. Once it's scared off, we'll make our way to the shore. It shouldn't be an issue with it so close by.
Guide says nothing. However, he extends his hand to accept my offer. I feel my body tense for a moment before relinquishing my light to the guide. It's not much farther. I'm sure we can make it. Guide slowly steps ahead. He and the creature brace for confrontation. Oh no. Margaret and I stay close enough to the guide's back to keep from being left behind in darkness.
Be ready to run. Don't get left behind.
Uh-oh. Are you going to be able to run, though? He then darts forward and launches the light directly at the prowler. Makes a snarling hiss as it retreats, defeated back into the black waters. None of us waste even a second looking back. We push forward. I race across the bridges, desperately trying to keep the guide's light-edged figure in the clear sight. I run as fast as I possibly can manage, without slipping on the boards. We run across the entire way, spurred on by the shoreline rapidly approaching. Miraculously, I feel my feet plunge into the dirt. I stumble forwards, nearly collapsing onto the ground while trying to catch my breath. It feels as though I've come out of a long dream. We made it. Margaret cries loudly, unable to contain her emotions as she reaches the shore. I rest there quietly for a few moments, taking time to allow my breathing and emotions to settle down. Finally, I look up from my lap to see Margaret standing ahead of me. Her face is buried in her hands. However, it's out of disbelief rather than the sorrow it's been countless times in the past 2 days. She lifts her head out of her hands, and the both of us make eye contact. No words need to be exchanged between us to know what the other is thinking. I'm glad for it, because I'm not sure I would be able to speak even if I needed to. The sound of sloshing and wood lurching captures our attention as the bridges begin to sink. In a few minutes, only the lonely dock is left. With that, the guide walks toward me.
It is time to leave this place. There is nothing left for you here.
Upon being addressed by him, I rise to my feet. He has a calm look on his face, though there is force behind his serenity. I open my mouth in an attempt to speak. However, I quickly realized I have little idea of what to say. Do I thank him for this? Should I give him my trust? Was our survival because of him, or despite him? Even now, I cannot know for certain. And the fog is removed from my thoughts. After everything that has happened, it becomes clear. I harden my face to match his serious disposition. There's something he is certainly right of. This lake isn't a place to linger. Going round and round in circles will never help. We cannot submit our lives, or our minds, to Sinnlos. For better or for ill, there's only one person who can help those once they are within its grasp, the guide. If he were removed, the place would be no safer. What I must do if I truly want to defend others is keep them from coming here at all. When I return to my village, I intend to make that information acutely known to our elder. For that to happen, we must leave.
Goodbye.
His eyes narrow as he looks over me. I begin to feel uncomfortable under his scrutiny. For a moment, I could swear I noticed him smiling slightly. Yeah, I see it. However, it could easily be a trick of the morning sun. I look away to face Margaret, not wanting to get caught up with this any longer.
Margaret, will you be coming?
Margaret's gaze goes past the guide and me. She fixates on the lake forlornly. I feel hopelessness emanating from her. She lost something important from the inside of her in that lake, something she will never get back. I empathize greatly with her, knowing that feeling is one we'll never be able to escape from, even after this lake is far behind us. Margaret seems to shake the feeling off and turns toward me. The smallest of smiles graces her lips as she nods.
Yes, I'm coming.
Margaret's vigor returns to her at the end of that sentence. She speaks with a little bit of the confidence she had at the beginning of the journey. She gives one last look to our lead. Her gaze is harsh and scrutinizing. I'm not entirely sure what she's trying to convey with the look. That isn't for me to know. Margaret definitively turns. She then walks toward the forest. I can't help but wonder what will become of her now. Perhaps she will tell me someday. Despite the firmness I so painfully tried to have, my heart starts to waver. Bamile, Lou, they're both still here. I wish to give them a proper farewell. I want to do something. My eyes begin to water and I almost turn back around. No, it is done. I need to remember that. They would never want me to ascribe their lives to Sinnlos. Nothing would disgrace their memory more. I will keep them in my thoughts without allowing the lake to poison me. If my steadfastness truly be gained, I march into the light, no hesitation. With a solemn heart, I at last arrived at Hamer. They were grateful to see me, for it was a desperate situation indeed. The urgency meant that my mind was occupied with other matters. I worked tirelessly to aid Hamer's own guards in forcing back the brigadiers. But during the moments of calm and when the sun went down, I would remember the lake. The villagers were alarmed when I arrived on my own. It did not take them long to guess what must have happened to Bamile. Having to recount the terrible story was almost more than I could endure. Yet I know that it will be even worse when I must tell my fellow guards back home. They deserve to hear the truth from me, regardless of how I feel. Margaret and I parted ways before I arrived at Hamer. She did not say where she would be going or what she would be doing. She did, however, put on a smile as she departed, which I felt was more for my sake than for her own. I hope she is well, wherever she is, and I would like to think that somehow we may see each other once more on another day. When receiving payments for his services, the guide must give a report of all those who both succeeded and failed to cross the lake. I was finally able to learn the name of the stranger we met on the bridges, Lou. As the guide predicted, he did not survive. He had requested to cross and been denied. He must have been truly desperate to attempt the crossing alone. I can only pray that those who cared for him will learn the truth of what happened. I have not heard nor seen the guide since then. He will remain obscured in that realm of fog and fear, a mysterious light off in the distance that is ever out of reach of the real world. I worry about when I must return home to my usual life. It will be difficult to continue as things were before. One thing I know for certain is that my village elder must be told that no one is to cross Sinnlos again. I've already told the Chimera leaders the same. Not a single more person should have to experience what we did. Its darkness will remain with me for the rest of my days. Though so much was lost, I try to believe that our lessons will keep others from suffering the same way, and in the end, something will be gained. Whew. We got an achievement here called Pain. Persevered through all the hurt. I was going to say, we lost 2 people on the bridge. I'm not sure what our, range of endings entail. But it's certainly... I don't know. This was our... Oh, bonus. Oh, open to the bonus events section. There are 3 bonus events in total. 1 that does not include story spoilers and 2 that do. Oh, the first event is unlocked by getting any ending where Kika crosses Sinnlos and reaches the other side alive. The other events are unlocked by getting a specific ending. Oh, right now you only have 1 event unlocked. We hope you enjoy it. Magical Night. We're not going to do that yet. We're going to save that for later. For now. I think we're going to go back here. Actually, first we should probably do the, darker ending. Say
I
nothing.
want to stay here. What if it breaks?
I'm sorry, Margaret. Babele curses quietly as the prowler slowly, sloppily advances. I eye the monster intently. Makes no move to leave us, so I turn to the guide instead.
Here, take my lantern. Once it's scared off, we'll make our way to the shore. It shouldn't be an issue with it so close by.
Babele and I stay close enough to the guide's back to keep him being left behind in the darkness.
Be ready to run. Don't get left behind.
And make it free. Babele, thank God, oh thank God. I rest there quietly for a few moments, taking time to allow my breathing and emotions to settle down. Finally, I look up from my lap and see Babele standing ahead of me. Both of our eyes are flowing with tears. Babele walks over and sits down in the dirt nearby. He gazes deeply into my eyes with a gentle smile gracing his lips. No words need to be exchanged between us to know what the other is thinking. I'm glad for it, because I'm not sure I would be able to speak even if I needed to. The sound of sloshing and wood lurching captures our attention as the bridges begin to sink. In a few minutes, only the lonely dock is left. With that, the guide walks toward me.
It is time to leave this place. There is nothing left for you here.
Upon being addressed by him, I rise to my feet. There's a calm look on his face. There is force behind his serenity. Moving along, I look away to face Bamele, not wanting to get caught up in this any longer.
Bamele, we're leaving.
Lifts his head at my voice and grins through his expression, though his expression quickly sours into a frown. He shows no eagerness to move forward and keeps his distance. He still feels regret that it is only us who are leaving. I empathize greatly with him, knowing that feeling is one we will never escape from, even after this lake is far behind us. However, he manages to weakly smile again.
Those words are music to my ears. Let's head out.
Bamele walks toward the forest without even acknowledging the guide. That is for the best, on the whole. We must get away from here. It saddens me to think Bamele doesn't even have the strength to become angry, though perhaps he had an epiphany about this lake in the same way that I did. We will be able to discuss that on another occasion. Despite the firmness I so intently tried to have, my heart starts to waver. Margaret, Lou, they're both still here. I wish to give them a proper farewell. I want to do something. My eyes begin to water and I almost turn back around. No, it is done. I need to remember that. They would never want me to ascribe their lives to Sinnlos. With my steadfastness truly regained, I marched into the light with no hesitation. Bamele was of great help during the fight. His outwardly positive demeanor lifted the spirits of many around him, but I could see from the shadows in his eyes that he hadn't forgotten what we went through. Nor could I miss the distance that had grown between us. He spoke fewer words to me, and I never gave him many either, yet he seemed stronger than I had seen before. I admire his will. Receiving payments for his services, The name and fate of Margaret soon became known in Hamer. I added that she was an intelligent, thoughtful person and urged them to show respect for her passing. I hope that one day I will have the opportunity to go to her hometown and give my own proper respects. And Lou, some point down the line, we're going to do a playthrough where we try and save you. And is there a path where we can learn more about the guide? I worry about when I must return home to my usual life. Yep, no one is to cross Sinnlos again. And let's just move right along, shall we? Similar ending, a more neutral, darker epilogue. Obviously, we grow distant. And the darkness that we experienced on the lake sticks with us and haunts us till the end. For our path, maybe we do throw the lantern, though I nod firmly to myself and set on the decision. I've seen the guide perform the move right in front of me. I know it isn't an impossible feat. Now something has to be done. I inch my way over to the most advanced group of Nixie. They drift slowly as they attempt to get behind the guide. I'm of no concern to them, at least for the time being. The guide spots me, and we make eye contact for a moment. He doesn't say anything and abruptly fixes his gaze elsewhere. It gives me the impression that he's aware of what I'm planning on doing. He's ignoring me because he doesn't want the Nixie to recognize a coming threat. I steady my arms and assume a strong stance. I stop for a heartbeat to take a deep breath. I jump forward a small way and toss my lantern towards the group of Nixie on the guide's right side. They're all caught completely off guard, practically wheezing as they scatter and dive back into the depths below. None even attempt to steal the lantern. That is a great relief. Guide seizes this moment to swing his staff at the group of Nixie on his left. The light edging close to them, combined with the general chaos, disturbs the creatures enough to frighten them. The left group joins the right in retreat. The guide observes the waterline, making certain that they have all crawled back into the water, and then releases a small sigh. He walks over to retrieve my lantern off the sand where it landed, keeping his eyes fixed steadily behind him. Tentatively, I take a few steps toward him. He extends his arm forward, offering my lantern back to me. I've never gotten so close to the guide before. He hasn't allowed it. Being in his presence this way feels unclear. I don't have the words to describe what it turns inside of me. His eyes are expectant, impatient, and I waste no more time. I move to accept it, but I flinch before I can grasp it.
What's wrong?
His face hardens, scrutinizing the unexpected reaction. I banish whatever expression was on my face and take hold of what's mine.
It is nothing.
He lets it go, though does not make any attempt to leave. I don't believe it is because he's worried about leaving me in darkness. He still suspects something is wrong. The guide watches closely as I set the lantern aflame once more. Its light gently washes over me, and I smile at the sight. This tool I hold is one of the exceedingly few comforts one can have on Sinnlos. I do not wish to part with it again. He is still here, and I begin to worry the guide intends to admonish me for what I've done. I may have let emotions show on my face again, because he starts to speak.
Keeping a hold of your light is crucial. However, if you took no risk, your only way across could have been lost. It wasn't an empty self-sacrifice.
You're welcome.
In your position, neither option was correct. Neither was wrong.
Our enigmatic lead nods. Upon finishing up his thought, he returns to his original place. I stare flabbergasted at the guide's back. By chance I was put in a circumstance that allowed our values to align. But never would I have expected him to acknowledge that I had made an acceptable decision. I stop myself from getting further distracted. Instead, I glance down at my light and realize the glow looks different. I wince. There's a large crack wickedly curving up the back. Uh-oh. I'm thankful that it still works, Still, I fear it will not hold out until the morning. I look forlornly at the fragile glass surrounding the simple flame. In a way, this event has forcefully reminded me of how fragile my own life is. One slip could mean the end of everything. Regardless, nothing can be done, presently, and we've got enough to worry about as it is. I cannot let this consume me. We will continue to resist against this lake. After an untold period of time, the water begins to stir. There's an unusual gurgling, a sound I never thought I would be this relieved to hear. Slowly, creakily, the bridges make their nightly appearance. Sinnlos is an overwhelmingly cruel environment. This island had felt like a safe haven such a short time ago, but that has been twisted to the point where I am grateful for a chance to return to the maze. And we may not even reach that. More Nixie are breaching the water and wrenching themselves onto the sand. The guide signals to all of us.
We have to leave!
Thanks to his position on the shore, the guide is able to board the bridges without confrontation. The rest of us, however, the Nixie begin to crowd the opening. It appears they want to get on themselves. We have desperately little time before we'll be cut off from the guide. I look to my lantern. This light alone be enough to cause them to disperse.
Come on!
Margaret's shout cuts straight through my thoughts. She's got the fire. Now. Hurls the flame ahead. Okay, I quickly straighten myself out and mull over our current situation. We don't have to argue with the guide to get healed now. So, it's automatically a plus. I quickly straighten myself out and mull over our current situation. I start to consider how we are going to travel now that we only have 2 lanterns.
I can stay ahead in between the guide's light and yours. I will be fine there.
I thought I'd become fraught with worry. I look over at Bamele, concern riding through my body as I wonder how he'll fare being so far away from a light source.
Well, the 3 of us could walk together. If there's one person close by, I can't imagine it would make much of a difference having another. Furthermore, I believe we've all taken enough risks for each other already for this to not be a problem.
Yeah, we're pretty used to this by now, but... Margaret, her consideration touches me. I smile gratefully at her. Bamele and I confer with our eyes. Before silently agreeing with one another, we nod.
Okay, we'll do that then. Thank you.
Other than having a bit of a crowd as opposed to an entirely straight line, our journey moves ahead as it did the night before. The silent night creeps along as we carefully move through the thick fog, making certain to not to bump into one another. Then my lantern blinks. It fizzles out. Three of us gasp simultaneously, and I hold my breath like time will stop with my breathing. To my great relief, the light flutters back on. The air I'd been anxiously holding in releases as a sigh.
What's going on?
Guide is halted, but has not bothered to turn around as he asks the question.
It was nothing.
I watch as he shifts his head back to look at us. The stare he gives is probing and deeply unnerving. He doesn't believe me. I return his gaze, my expression blank. We remain locked in this moment. I can feel his patience with me slipping away. He chooses not to spend any longer waiting for an answer that will not come. The guide faces his back to us once more. He acts without a word, but I know he isn't satisfied. Our small group shares anxiety-ridden looks as the guide moves ahead. I look down at my lantern. The crack seems larger than ever. I feel as though I am cracking with it. There's nothing I could do to fix it, should it go out for good.
We need to keep going. We shouldn't speak of this.
I can feel that they're apprehensive over this situation, undoubtedly curious as to how it happened in the first place. However, this is not the time. I don't want to draw attention to this for fear of the guide catching on. The chattering of the Nixie bubbles up out of the darkness, and I gulp harshly. The thought crosses my mind that they, too, have noticed what just transpired. I don't like that. We walk for quite a bit longer. The voices whispering amongst each other have died down. The squishing and clicking of prowlers has replaced them. It's difficult to trace the exact origin of the sound. All I know is that it's far too close for comfort. The guide stops abruptly, bringing us to an awkward halt. Luckily, there are no impacts between the three of us.
Stay where you are.
Oh? My eyes are drawn to the guide. He's making small movements, cautiously pressing his foot into the boards in front of him at different spots. Could something be wrong with this bridge itself? My theory is proven correct almost immediately.
The boards ahead are unstable. They may break when stepped on.
Is there another path?
This is our path. Move slowly and do not have two people on the same board at a time. I will cross first. When I find a stable section, I will inform you. Then you will follow my lead.
Are we going to... This is a different point, right? This isn't the narrow bridge. This is just unstable bridge. It doesn't allow us time to answer before darting forward. His steps are light, but beneath him, the wood creaks loudly.
Why are the bridges this way? They can be burned into ash, and will still rise the next nightfall. And yet this spot is less stable than the rest. It is strange.
It is cracking along with our will?
There likely isn't a reason for it. It's just another piece of madness.
The unnatural black water has a great deal of magic within. That is the most reasonable source of the bridges. If this maze is formed without an intelligent creator, that would explain its treacherous nature.
The guide breaks his cautious steps, testing the security of the bridge.
Where I am now is solid. You only need to reach this position.
We'll be right there.
I face the others.
To ensure that there is enough light for all of us, I will go second. We need to keep enough distance between each other to not break the boards.
Lobelia elects to lead and starts going forward, inching gingerly across the trembling boards. After there's some distance, I begin to follow, focused on keeping my movement steady. Margaret is the last to leave. Three of us carefully navigate the creaking, soggy wood. We attempt to keep to the guide's path in hopes that the boards will hold. Ooh! I feel my foot lay heavily on a board. Bends hair-raisingly under me. I wince as I slowly step off of it. I wonder if we should be crawling on all fours to spread our weight over a wider space. That may make us vulnerable to those creatures. My focus is broken when I hear a shout from ahead. Uh-oh, Bimele's foot has snapped through the bridge. Pull him back. Uh-oh, that was a mistake. I instinctively rush forward, but the abrupt movement and added weight causes the board to splinter completely. And we're gone. I hit the cold water like a slap, smacking my head on a falling chunk of wood. All I can do is try to swim back to the surface despite the thick hold of water growing, and growing fog in my mind. Before I can reach it, I feel something latch onto my legs with a grip like an iron manacle. I struggle to kick the weight off, flailing in my legs desperately as my air supply dwindles. It only tightens its grip so much I can feel my ankle bones caving in. It drags me farther away from the upper world of air, light, and life. I can feel more clawed hands grab me. With an icy turning of my insides, I realize that it's already too late for me. Despite this, I struggle and thrash about, as much as my burning lungs will let me do so that if he fell into the water too, I could at least keep the monsters busy with me. This last sense of purpose keeps me fixated, even as my senses get fuzzy. I'm dragged lower and lower with a vague smile on my face until the darkness completely overtakes me. Panic. Yep, achievement unlocked, panic. That was very accurately a moment of panic. Okay, It's been a while since I saved. We'll just do the right thing here. Okay, I will wait. Hang in there, Melee. Despite every cell in me screaming to help, I force myself not to make any sudden movements. Melee lifts his foot up from the cusp of the water and places it back on the board in front of him. Thank goodness. The entire section could have collapsed. Margaret looks at us, clearly concerned.
A part of the board broke. Everyone is fine, however. You should avoid that section completely.
All right.
We're still in much danger as we stand here. I encourage him to begin the moving once more. Make sure to skip over the broken board myself when I come to it. As I pass by the hole, I catch a bit of movement in the water. When I look closely, there's nothing there. After a few more agonizing minutes, everyone reaches the other side of that trap. Each of us three mutter various expressions of relief. There isn't a word from our guide. We continue our journey across the bridges, sharing small, sporadic bits of conversation, until we're plunged into darkness. Oh. I immediately come to a screeching halt that almost makes the two near me lose their footing. I look down at my lantern. It's as dark as the water. Three of us stare at it, silently pleading. A few moments pass, and yet the lantern remains cold and lifeless. In desperation, I jiggle the lantern, hoping that somehow something will click and the light will return. Nothing happens. I feel the others' nerves climbing with every second. They shift uncomfortably as they watch me pathetically attempt to relight it. We are quiet, still hoping that the guide won't notice. I cease shaking and tap at the sides of the cracked glass. When that doesn't yield any results, I open the lantern itself and look over the internal workings. I cannot reach inside. Despite its appearance, the metal has retained the heat from before, and I would be burned. If the darkness stretches on, I frantically try to figure out what the problem is from sight alone, to no avail.
Your light is gone.
The indifferent tone of the speaker is unmistakable. No, not yet. I look up from my work to see that the guide is approaching us. I'm at a loss for words. He comes near, and the edges of his light shelter us like a blanket.
Relight it.
My hands begin to tremble. I know that it won't do anything, but I do as demanded and hope for a miracle. I attempt to get the inner core to catch flame, but the lantern refuses to comply no matter what I do. The guide's eyes widen as the full scope of the situation dawns on him. My two companions start nervously fidgeting and whisper about possible solutions, but I hear each one getting shot down.
What are we going to do now?
Margaret's voice comes out shakily. Look at the guide forlornly, completely at his mercy now, if he has any to spare at all. He coldly surveys the three of us. After silently deliberating, he narrows his eyes until there are slits in his face.
I will allow one of you to remain in my light.
Oh. One?
That's insanity! Your staff creates more than enough light for the four of us. We could easily follow at a distance you would feel comfortable with.
Someone who wants to live will share their light with no one. I will not share my light with three.
He almost snarls at us.
After everything that's happened, all that we've done, you're going to abandon two of us this easily? You truly are a bastard.
Stop. If you take so much as one wrong step towards him, all the guide will do is flee. There is no chance that fighting will end in more people surviving.
Correct? Ravelli doesn't say any more, but grits his teeth. Margaret is completely frozen, her mind racing to process everything.
Then, what about 2? Could you please keep 2 of us safe?
Guide sharply shakes his head.
I will allow 1 and no more. 2 will be left behind.
Finality rings out from his words.
Lingering at a distance far behind my light will leave you vulnerable. The wisest option is to continuously move, even if it means going another way.
Ravelli glowers at the guide hatefully. Beside me, Margaret begins to whisper something to herself. Can't make out what it is. A torrent of thoughts rip through my mind as I try to find some other way.
Kika.
My body stiffens. The guide has never referred to me by name this way. It is jarring enough to gain my attention, even amidst the panic rising.
You are the most likely to survive. The offer is for you.
Oh. My eyes widen even further. No, I don't want that. I can't be the only one who... No. I turn my eyes to my 2 companions. Both of them gaze back at me, dejected. There is horrifying resignation in their eyes. This cannot be happening. They should be going, not me. They should be the ones who remain safe.
I'm nowhere near as sharp as you are. We both always knew that.
There's a fragile, self-depreciating smile on his face. It makes my heart ache.
My lantern broke because I foolishly dropped it. And I've already lost my glasses, so...
Geez, they're both already defeated. I shake my head, refusing to watch them give up so easily. I turn to the guide's face one last time, begging him mentally. He is empty and unflinching.
It needs to be done. This is what it means to cross Sinnlos.
Heavy words sink into me as I stare towards the void that eagerly awaits 2 of us. The guide sucks in a breath, clearly disappointed. Actually, I'm going to run that choice back next time.